Reading this evening, which I wrote earlier on, is entitled Time. Time is the one thing that is spent that can never be earned back. Never waste it being unhappy with situations beyond your control. Just let them. Let people behave how they behave and let yourself respond and live your life accordingly. Time is the most precious commodity there is. No one knows how much time they are born with, and the expenditure starts immediately. Time here in the spirit world moves faster than in your physical world. A lifetime into old age for you is but a moment for us here, and yet there is so much to tell of your adventures when you return. Tales of who you met, the relationships had, things you did, where you went, and most of all, the lessons your soul learnt along the way. This is the most precious gift of all, for all this means is a life well lived. By striving to be and do your best every day, gives your yesterdays fond memories and your tomorrows a buoyance with certainties. Even though life happens, you can be sure of happiness simply by living in the peaceful knowledge of doing your best within your time here on earth. I'd like to hand service to our guest medium and guest demonstrator and speaker this evening, Ann Marie Dibben. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. That was a lovely reading, Nicola. And I don't know whether you saw me express surprise, but it's just another example of the connection and the link that we have with the spirit world, because I'd like to speak about time today. And we'd never, although we've discussed about me taking Sarah's place this evening, we never discussed what I was going to speak about because I didn't really know at the time myself. So that's just a wonderful example of how clever they are. But time, it's a funny old thing, isn't it? It seems to go quickly when you're enjoying yourself, and perhaps it drags when you're not. But we never can seem to get the right fix on time, can we? And our attitude to time, is it not changing quite radically? Because we can measure it in microseconds now, but in the years before we had clocks, time, was it measured by the seasons, by the way people lived, and they had to notice when the seasons were changing, and they acted accordingly, and got up when it was daylight and went to bed when it was dark. And I just wonder how the people managed maybe in the north of Scotland and further north when it's, there's hardly any nighttime in the summer, and it's constant dark in other parts of the world. So, I'm sure they would have found their ways of adjusting. But in one island in Norway, I believe, they decided they're not going to have anything to do with time. You leave your clock behind when you move onto this island, and you just deal with it however you feel the spirit moves you to behave or do or eat or whatever it is, that you do not run your life by a clock, which must be quite. I wonder if it would be disorientating if you were there originally, and then once you got used to it, it would perhaps be strange moving back into an environment where you needed to run your life by the clock. But it's a thing that we can influence in some ways, and then in other ways we can't, can we? Because we can't influence when we're going to be born. We can't influence when we're going to pass into the spirit side of life. We can't influence how we age. We can't influence how we grow. All these things are embedded in us, like in a computer that programmed into us with our genetic makeup and our personal makeup. But these things we can't influence, and perhaps we maybe um, is disrespect too strong a word to use, that we well, we can't do anything about it, so we'll just ignore it. But there are things we can influence. We can influence how we behave. We can influence our attitude towards other people. We can influence the way we organize our day. We can influence our interests. We can influence how much time we spend in the house, how much time we spend outside of the house. But it is that beginning to show that we're putting a bit of pressure on ourselves, because we all have pressures of time. We all have to be certain places at certain times of the day or the week or the month or the year. And some of it is imposed from on high, if you like when we're younger, we have to be in school for a certain length of time each day. And as we grow, we have to be in work, or we have to do certain things as a responsibility in the home at certain times of the day or night. But other things we push on ourselves. Would you agree with me that we can, if we get wrapped up in self-imposed pressures? I can remember one Christmas quite a number of years ago, when there was this particular toy that our daughters wanted for Christmas, and I couldn't get one of them. And it was like I was phoning everywhere and rushing around making sure I got this particular toy for them for Christmas. And I thought, Anne, what are you doing? You can't get it locally. We'll just have to deal with it. But it's a pressure of time and buying things and having things pressed on us from outside. How much do we measure ourselves by the belongings we have, the money that we earn, or the cars, etc., the size of the house we have? But if we are to accept the truth that spirit is within us, spirit is around us, as I'm looking at all you lovely people, you are spirit in material body, just like I am, as is everyone we meet. And this earth is spirit embodied, is God's handiwork around us. Where does God come into all that I've just said? Where does God come into all this pressure, this self-imposed pressure of having to be at a certain place at a certain time? Why can't we sometimes just stop and let go and let God? Let go and let God influence our lives more than he seems to, if we're so focused on filling our minds with the material, the wealth or not, the belongings that we have. Why can we not just relax and let go and let God influence our lives even more than he already does? And having all this self-imposed and imposed pressure is perhaps keeping the God force, the energy of God out of our lives, or not allowing us to appreciate how much influence God has in our lives at the moment, where we are, who we are, the friends we have, the things we treasure, the families that we dearly love, the families that we argue with, but the people that we have known and the people that we hope to know in the future, to allow that energy that is our Father God to be a much, much bigger part of us, to let the love that we have inside us grow, to allow other people to make mistakes as we allow ourselves to make mistakes. If we don't make mistakes, we don't grow. So if we allow that energy to come in and help, allow us to make mistakes, but help us to lift ourselves up so that we can dust ourselves off and start all over again in the greater knowledge that we've learned something. And we've learned something through that relaxation of this insistence that we have to be at a certain place at a certain time. So if we are going to allow our Father God into our home, into our being even more, how do we do it? How do we do it? And I don't think we can answer for other people, because other people's ways of life and opinions and attitudes are completely different from our own. So let's decide for ourselves. We may want to sit and just say thank you before we get up and start the day, or say thank you for the day just before we go to sleep at night. Whenever it is, whenever, maybe mid-morning when we're having a drink or whatever, it's a very personal thing, I would suggest, to make the effort to fit God into our lives much more than perhaps we do at the moment. So if we do that, the habit, the behavior becomes a habit. Is it 3 weeks? You have to do something on a regular basis before it becomes a habit. And then if you forget or you don't do it, will you miss it? Will you miss the influence of God in your life, inviting God into your life more than you do at the moment? Will you miss it? And will you be able to see, looking back over the days, how much your life has changed? Perhaps you don't worry as much, and I've got a first class honours degree in worrying, but how much that gentleness comes into your life, how much that power comes into your life just by opening that door into our heart, into our minds, which are the spirit and the mind are the things that will go with us into the spirit world, opening them up just gently, and see the influence that relaxation and that acceptance of our Father God into our lives will have. Just see if it can make a difference. See what influence, what that relaxation can bring into your life, and the love of your Father God, the shift perhaps in your attitudes, and perhaps you noticing a shift in the way others behave around you because they see a difference. So it's very much try it and see how it works. Try it just to acknowledge that God is in our life. God is the very soul, the very essence of us, and just stop shutting the door on him because we're so focused on time and how much we've got to get through in a day. Just relax and let go and let God. Thank you.